The reflection in my bathroom mirror showed the perfect image of a dutiful wife. Carefully applied mascara, lip color that wasn't too bold, and a conservative dress that hit just below the knee. But as I adjusted my wedding ring, memories of that night flooded back, making my cheeks flush. My wedding day had been picture perfect. The white dress, the flowers, Liam's adoring eyes as we exchanged vows. He'd been so gentle, so loving, everything a woman could want in a husband. But there was always that other part of me, the one that craved something wilder. It started with just a look from Jared during the reception. That signature smirk of his, the one that always spelled trouble. Sabrina caught it too, her dark eyes glinting with unspoken possibilities. The three of us had history, nights of reckless abandon before I met Liam. Adventures we'd sworn to keep secret. After the reception, when Liam passed out from too much champagne, I should have just gone to bed. Instead, I found myself knocking on Jared and Sabrina's hotel room door. The moment it opened, the electricity between us crackled to life. Sabrina pulled me inside by my wrist, her touch setting my skin on fire. Jared locked the door behind us. My wedding dress pooled at my feet minutes later, forgotten on the hotel room floor. What followed was a blur of hands, lips, and whispered demands. Sabrina's perfume mixed with Jared's cologne, creating an intoxicating combination that still haunts my dreams. The way he gripped my hips, how she traced patterns on my skin, it was everything proper society told me I shouldn't want. Now, years later, I still catch myself smiling at the memory when I'm alone. The thrill of that night, the way we moved together, how perfectly wrong it all was. But then reality crashes back in, and I see Liam's trusting face in my mind. The guilt hits like a physical blow. This is the last time, I whisper to my reflection, just like I've done countless times before. I can't keep hurting him like this. But even as the words leave my lips, I know they're hollow. The same emptiness echoes in them as when I promised myself I wouldn't follow Jared and Sabrina upstairs that night. The same hollowness as every other time I've sworn to end things. My phone buzzes on the counter, a text from Sabrina about getting together this weekend. My heart races as I read it, already knowing I won't say no. I never do. Can't seem to resist the pull, even though each time leaves me drowning in shame afterward. I smooth down my dress one last time, check my lipstick, and prepare to face another day of playing the role of the perfect wife. But underneath this carefully constructed facade, I'm already counting the hours until my next chance to let that other side of me free. I sat across from Vanessa at our usual coffee spot, watching her stir her latte with that mischievous glint in her eyes, the same glint that had led me down countless paths I shouldn't have taken. Her wild blonde hair caught the morning sun, and her red lips curled into that knowing smile I'd grown to both love and fear. So, spill it. How was your weekend with them? Vanessa leaned forward, dropping her voice just enough to make it intimate. My cheeks flushed as memories of tangled sheets and stolen moments flooded back. I shouldn't even be talking about this. Oh please, you've been glowing since you walked into the office on Monday. Besides, who was it that introduced you to Sabrina in the first place? She had me there. 3 years ago, at one of her infamous house parties, Vanessa had pulled me aside and whispered, "There's someone you need to meet." That someone was Sabrina, and through Sabrina came Jared. Before I knew it, I was neck deep in a world of secret rendezvous and burning desires. You know, sometimes I wonder if I should hate you for showing me all this. I took a sip of my coffee, letting the bitter taste ground me. Vanessa threw her head back and laughed. "Honey, I just opened the door. You're the one who keeps walking through it." The worst part was she was right. Even before I met Liam, Vanessa had been my gateway to excitement. Weekend trips that turned into wild adventures, blind dates that became unforgettable nights, and now, this complicated web of passion and guilt. Remember that time in Miami? Vanessa's eyes sparkled with the memory. When you first realized you could feel something for more than one person. God, don't remind me. But the memories came anyway. The beach house, the storm, the strangers who became more than strangers. It was before Liam, before my vows, but it was the beginning of understanding my own desires. You were so innocent then. Vanessa reached across and squeezed my hand. Look at you now, juggling a husband and 2 lovers. I've taught you well. My stomach twisted at her words. You make it sound so calculated. Isn't it though? The scheduling, the excuses, the separate phones. She pulled out her own phone, scrolling through what I knew was her collection of current flames. Life's too short for just one flavor, Lana. You figured that out way before you said I do. Every coffee break with Vanessa was like this, a mix of confession and celebration, guilt and pride. She'd share stories of her latest conquests, each more daring than the last, and I'd feel my own resolve weakening. Her freedom was intoxicating, her confidence contagious. Sometimes I think about stopping, I admitted, tracing the rim of my cup. About being the wife Liam deserves. And then what? Spend the rest of your life wondering what if. Dreaming about Jared's hands or Sabrina's kiss while you're making grocery lists. Vanessa shook her head. That's not you anymore, babe. I've watched you bloom into someone who knows what she wants and takes it. The thing about Vanessa was that she made the complicated seem simple, the wrong feel right. In her world, desire wasn't something to be ashamed of. It was something to chase, to embrace, to celebrate over morning coffee and evening wines. I looked up from my computer screen as Vanessa's shadow fell across my desk. Her eyes had that familiar mischievous glint that always meant trouble, the kind of trouble I couldn't resist. She perched on the edge of my desk, leaning in close. There's this party I've been dying to tell you about. Her whispered words sent a shiver down my spine. No rules, no judgments, just pure, unfiltered freedom. And you can bring whoever you want. My heart kicked against my ribs. The invitation dangled before me like forbidden fruit, sweet and dangerous. Images flashed through my mind, dark rooms filled with possibility, the press of bodies, the thrill of the unknown. My skin tingled with anticipation even as guilt crept up my throat. Back home that evening, I watched Liam moving around the kitchen, methodically preparing dinner like he did every Friday. Same recipe, same time, same gentle kiss on my cheek. The stability that once felt like a warm blanket now pressed down on me like a lead weight. I lay awake that night, tossing in our bed while Liam's steady breathing filled the darkness. My phone screen illuminated the ceiling as I read Vanessa's message again and again. The party details burned in my mind. I rolled onto my side, trying to focus on my sleeping husband's face, his features so familiar, so trusting. But the monotony of our life together flashed before me in an endless loop, movie nights every Wednesday, dinner with his parents on Sundays, the same conversations, the same routines. My chest tightened. The safety I'd once craved now felt like walls closing in. I slipped out of bed and paced our living room, my bare feet silent on the hardwood floors. The responsible voice in my head listed all the reasons to stay home, my marriage vows, Liam's devotion, the life we'd built. But underneath it all thrummed a desperate need for something more, something wild and unpredictable. Dawn was breaking when I finally grabbed my phone. My fingers trembled as I typed out 2 simple words to Vanessa, I'm in. The bass vibrated through my bones as I stepped into the dimly lit house. Vanessa gripped my hand, pulling me past groups of people swaying to the music. Neon lights pulsed across bare skin and faces lost in ecstasy. My heart raced with a mix of nerves and excitement. This is what living feels like, Vanessa shouted over the music, pressing a drink into my hand. The sweet tart liquid burned down my throat, warming my insides. Bodies moved like waves through the darkened rooms. I heard moans mixing with the heavy beat. Each sip of my drink made the scene before me blur and sharpen in mesmerizing ways. The wedding ring on my finger felt impossibly heavy. A tall man with dark features caught my eye from across the room. He smiled, raising his glass. 2 others flanked him, one with sharp cheekbones, the other broad-shouldered and solid. They moved through the crowd toward me with predatory grace. Mr. Dark Features reached me first. His hand found the small of my back, sending electricity up my spine. I'm Marcus, he murmured against my ear. The other 2 introduced themselves, but their names dissolved in the haze of music and alcohol. Hands caressed my arms, my waist. I closed my eyes, letting the sensation wash over me. Marcus's lips brushed my neck while strong shoulders pressed against my back. Sharp cheekbones threaded his fingers through my hair. The world spun in lazy circles. They awakened something primal in me, a hunger I'd been trying to suppress. Here, in this pulsing darkness, I wasn't Liam's wife or even Jared and Sabrina's secret lover. I was pure sensation, pure want. Time became fluid. We moved together, danced together to the beat of the music. Somewhere in the back of my mind, guilt tried to surface, but the music drowned it out, and the men's attention made me feel powerful, desired, alive. I surrendered to the moment, letting go of everything except the electric feeling of skin on skin and the intoxicating freedom of anonymity. The party swirled around us like a living thing. Other revelers became mere shadows as I lost myself in this triangle of desire. My inhibitions melted away with each passing minute, replaced by a heady sense of invincibility. This was what Vanessa meant about pure, unfiltered freedom, and I was drowning in it willingly. Sunlight stabbed through unfamiliar curtains, piercing my skull with needles of regret. The sheets wrapped around my body smelled of smoke, sweat, and strange cologne, a far cry from the fresh lavender of home. My mouth felt like sandpaper, and every slight movement sent waves of nausea through my system. I fumbled for my phone. 8:47 a.m. 3 missed calls from Liam. The events of last night crashed over me in fragments, hands, lips, bodies moving in the dark. Marcus. No, maybe it was strong shoulders. The details blurred together in a haze of tequila and bass beats. Getting home took forever. Each step on the sidewalk echoed in my head as I clutched my heels in one hand, using the other to shield my eyes from the merciless morning sun. The Uber driver kept the radio too loud, and every bump in the road threatened to empty my stomach. I sneaked into our house through the back door, grateful Liam had already left for work. A quick shower wouldn't wash away my sins, but at least it removed the physical evidence. I scrubbed until my skin turned red, trying to erase the phantom touches that still lingered. When Liam came home that evening, I greeted him with the brightest smile I could muster. My head still throbbed, but I'd popped enough aspirin to function. "Missed you last night," he said, wrapping his arms around me. The familiar scent of his aftershave, clean, honest, trustworthy, made my stomach twist with guilt. Girls' night ran late. The lie slipped out smoothly, practiced. Vanessa wouldn't let me leave until we'd watched at least 3 episodes of that new show she's obsessed with. I cooked his favorite pasta for dinner, letting the methodical chopping of vegetables ground me in the present. We ate together, and I listened to him talk about work, nodding and laughing at all the right moments, while pushing away memories of strangers' hands. Later, in our bedroom, I initiated. Needed to prove something to myself, maybe. His touch was gentle, loving, everything I should want. I closed my eyes and focused on the solid warmth of his body, the tenderness in his kisses. But flashes of last night kept intruding, the wild abandon, the thrill of multiple hands, the pure chemical rush of anonymity. Afterward, lying in his arms, listening to his steady breathing, I made myself the same promise I'd made countless times before. This was it. No more parties, no more Jared, no more Sabrina, no more betraying the man who loved me unconditionally. I would be better. I had to be better. But even as I thought it, I knew the promise rang hollow. My throat started feeling scratchy on Wednesday morning. At first I blamed it on the dry office air and excessive air conditioning, but by Friday, an annoying itch had settled in places I couldn't ignore. I kept shifting uncomfortably in my desk chair, trying not to draw attention. The mirror in the office bathroom revealed white spots dotting the back of my throat. My heart raced as I leaned closer, examining them under the harsh fluorescent lights. Vanessa's words from that night echoed through my mind, "Life's too short to play it safe." Now those words felt hollow, mocking. I couldn't face going into work on Monday. The symptoms had gotten worse over the weekend, and anxiety gnawed at my insides. I called my manager, putting on my best congested voice. "Hey Sarah, I'm really under the weather. Must have caught something going around." Liam insisted on working from home to take care of me. He brought me tea with honey, checking my temperature every few hours. His cool hand against my forehead made my chest ache with guilt. "You're burning up, honey. Let me make you some chicken soup. My mom's recipe always helps." I wanted to tell him not to be so kind, to stop fussing over me. Each gentle touch was like a knife twisting deeper. He didn't deserve this. Any of this. While he heated up soup in the kitchen, I curled into a ball under the covers, my body hot with fever and shame. "Here, sit up a bit." He propped pillows behind me, the concern in his eyes making me want to disappear. "You need to stay hydrated." The soup smelled amazing, but I could barely swallow past the pain in my throat. Every spoonful reminded me of my reckless choices, of that night when I'd let go of all inhibitions. Now reality was crashing down, and I couldn't escape the consequences. Liam worked from the bedroom, glancing up from his laptop frequently to check on me. His devotion only amplified my self-loathing. I drifted in and out of feverish sleep, haunted by fragments of memories I wished I could forget. I lay in bed, my throat still burning despite the medication. The fever had subsided but left me weak and drained. Liam brought me another cup of tea, setting it carefully on the nightstand. Something felt off about his movements, mechanical, distant. I reached for his hand, but he pulled away before I could touch him. Over the next few days, the physical symptoms started to improve, but Liam's behavior only grew more concerning. His warmth had vanished, replaced by an icy wall I couldn't penetrate. When I tried to kiss him good morning, he turned his face away. During dinner, he stared at his plate, responding to my attempts at conversation with grunts and single words. "Are you okay?" I asked one evening as he sat rigidly on the other end of the couch. "You seem different." He didn't look up from his phone. "Fine." The chill in his voice made me shiver. I told myself it was work stress, or maybe he was coming down with what I had. But deep down, a nagging voice whispered that something else was wrong. Very wrong. I tried everything to bridge the growing divide. Cooked his favorite meals, wore the clothes he liked best, attempted to engage him in conversation about his day. Nothing worked. The distance between us stretched wider with each passing hour. One evening, I curled up on the couch with a book, trying to distract myself from the suffocating tension in the house. Liam stood in the doorway, his shadow falling across the pages. The hair on my arms stood up at the emptiness in his voice. "I know." Two simple words that made my blood run cold. I looked up, meeting his eyes for the first time in days. The loving warmth I was used to had been replaced by something hard and sharp. "What do you mean?" My voice came out as a whisper. "Don't." He took a step into the room. "I went to the doctor last week. Burning when I urinate. Pain. Discharge." Each word fell like an icicle. "Want to know what they found?" The room started spinning. I gripped the edge of the couch to steady myself. "Chlamydia." He spat the word like poison. "Funny thing is, I've only been with you for years. So tell me, Lana, how did I get an STD? Tears welled up in my eyes as the walls of my carefully constructed world began to crumble. All the lies, the secrets, the betrayals, they crashed down around me in a deafening avalanche. I don't. The excuses died in my throat. "Don't bother." His voice was terrifyingly calm. "I've pieced it together. The late nights, the mysterious work events, the sudden illness. How long has it been going on? How many others have there been?" "It wasn't supposed to be like this," I whispered, but the words sounded hollow even to my own ears. "No?" His laugh was bitter, cutting. "How was it supposed to be then? Did you think you'd never get caught? That you could just keep living your double life forever?" The tears spilled over as guilt crashed through me in waves. Every moment of betrayal, every lie I'd told him, every time I'd chosen my selfish desires over our marriage, it all came rushing back with devastating clarity. I stared at my phone, watching it vibrate with yet another incoming call from my mother. The screen lit up with her contact photo, one from happier times at last year's Christmas dinner. My finger hovered over the decline button before I let it ring out. 37 missed calls. 68 unread messages. My social media notifications exploded with family members unfriending and blocking me. Each digital rejection felt like another nail in my coffin. It started this morning. Liam had been cold and distant since discovering my betrayal, but I never expected him to do this. He called my parents while I was in the shower, told them everything. Not just about the STD, but about Jared, Sabrina, the party, all of it. By the time I emerged, my phone was already flooding with notifications. My sister's voice message cut deep. "How could you do this to Liam? He's the best thing that ever happened to you." The family group chat turned toxic. Cousins I grew up with posted screenshots of my private messages with Vanessa, sharing them with brutal commentary. Aunt Sarah, who used to brag about how I was her favorite niece, now called me damaged goods. My father's text was the worst. "Don't come to Sunday dinner anymore. Your mother can't even look at your photos without crying." I curled up on the couch, watching my carefully constructed world crumble through my phone screen. My mother's friend from church sent a paragraph about my whorish behavior. Uncle Jim, who'd always treated me like his own daughter, posted a long rant about how I'd brought shame to the family name. The house felt suffocating. I grabbed my keys and drove to the park where I used to play as a kid. 2 of my mom's friends were there with their grandchildren. They spotted me, gathered their things, and left, whispering and shooting disgusted looks my way. Back home, I found more messages. "My cousin Rachel, you're a slut and a disgrace. My childhood best friend Emma, I can't believe I trusted you around my husband all these years." Sitting in my car, I finally played my mother's voicemail. Her voice cracked as she spoke. "I raised you better than this. How will I face everyone at church? What will people think of us now?" The isolation crushed me. Every person who once loved me now viewed me through a lens of disgust and disappointment. Liam hadn't just exposed my infidelity, he'd systematically demolished every relationship I'd built over 30 years. I thought about confronting him, demanding to know why he had to drag everyone into our private business. But what right did I have to be angry? I was the one who'd broken our vows, who'd risked everything for fleeting moments of pleasure. Still, the public humiliation felt excessive. The names they called me, slut, whore, homewrecker, each one landed like a physical blow. My aunt even called my workplace, trying to get me fired for moral turpitude. My phone buzzed again. This time it was my father. "You're no longer welcome at your mother's birthday next week. Don't try to come. You've brought enough shame to this family." The weight of total isolation pressed down on my chest. Every support beam I'd ever relied on had been kicked out from under me, leaving me to face the consequences of my actions entirely alone. The silence in our house is deafening. Every creak of the floorboards echoes through the emptiness where our life together used to be. Liam moved his things to the guest room 3 days ago, each trip up and down the stairs punctuated by the heavy thud of boxes and drawers being pulled open and slammed shut. I watched from my bedroom doorway as he systematically removed every trace of himself from our shared space. The photos disappeared first. The wedding picture on the dresser gone. The candid shot from our trip to Maine last summer vanished. Even the silly photo booth stripped from the carnival where he's making those ridiculous faces, all of it methodically taken down, leaving behind pale rectangles on the walls like ghosts. The bathroom was next. His toothbrush, razor, the expensive cologne I bought him for Christmas, cleared out with surgical precision. He left behind the towel set his mother gave us as a wedding present, properly folded and untouched, that hurt more than if he'd thrown them in the trash. When I tried to speak to him in the kitchen this morning, he walked past me as if I were invisible. The coffee maker gurgled and steamed, filling 2 mugs out of habit. He took his usual blue mug, dumped my coffee down the drain, and walked out without a word. The worst part is knowing he's still here, just rooms away, but completely unreachable. The guest room door stays firmly shut. At night I hear him moving around, living a separate life under the same roof. The TV murmurs faintly through the walls. He's watching our favorite shows without me. Yesterday I found all my birthday cards to him neatly stacked on the dining room table, arranged by date. Each one signed with "Love always" or "Forever yours," lies that he had to read through again to fully appreciate their hollowness. Next to them sat the infinity necklace I gave him on our first anniversary. The chain was coiled into a perfect circle, like a snake eating its own tail. The kitchen whiteboard where we used to leave silly messages and grocery lists now only displays a single word in his precise handwriting, separate. Below it, he started itemizing shared belongings, dividing our life into his and hers columns with cold efficiency. Our inside jokes have become weapons. This morning he deliberately used my favorite coffee mug, the one with the chip that we always laughed about because I dropped it the day we moved in. He filled it with water to feed the plants, treating it like any other vessel, stripping away all its meaning. The house feels like a museum of everything I destroyed. Each room holds memories that Liam is systematically dismantling, leaving behind only the shell of what we built together. His calculated withdrawal hurts more than any angry outburst could. He's making me watch as he erases us, piece by piece, with the same attention to detail he once used to build our life together. I sat on the floor of our half-empty living room, staring at the spaces where Liam's things used to be. The bare walls mocked me, rectangular patches of brighter paint marking where his family photos once hung. My fingers traced the outline of dust where his favorite reading lamp used to sit. The silence pressed against my ears. No more sounds of his keys dropping in the bowl by the door. No more gentle humming while he cooked. No more warm presence beside me on the couch. My phone buzzed. Another message from my sister. "Hope you're happy with what you've done. Don't bother coming to Christmas." I hurled the phone across the room. It clattered against the baseboard, screen cracking. Fresh tears burned down my cheeks as anger surged through my chest. Liam hadn't just left, he'd scorched the earth behind him. He'd told everyone, every single person. My own parents wouldn't even look at me now. Mom had always praised Liam, called him the perfect son-in-law. Now she acted like I was dead to her, and Liam knew exactly what he was doing when he exposed everything. He'd systematically dismantled my entire support system. "Bastard," I whispered, wiping my face roughly. "You freaking bastard!" Sure, I'd made mistakes, horrible ones, but did I deserve this complete social execution? This calculated destruction of everything I'd built. The way he'd laid out those birthday cards, and that necklace like some kind of twisted art installation of our dead marriage. The way he'd divided our possessions with clinical precision on that whiteboard, like I was nothing more than an accounting error to be corrected. After everything, he's the real villain, I muttered through fresh tears. All I did was make a mistake, but he destroyed me. My words echoed in the empty room. Empty like everything else in my life now. Empty like what Liam had turned me into.
Hey everyone, if you enjoyed the story, remember to like, subscribe and comment on the video for more stories like this. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss an update. If you have any similar stories to share, leave them in the comments and we'll make sure to bring them to life. Thanks for watching.